Welcome back to third lecture on Class 10 Science, Chapter 4, Carbon and Compounds. So in the second lecture, we have only studied hydrocarbons, which are formed by the bonding of carbon with hydrogen. But apart from hydrogen, carbon also forms bonds with other elements like halogens, oxygen, nitrogen, sulfur, etc. In a hydrocarbon chain, one or more hydrogen can be replaced by these elements, such that the valency of carbon remains satisfied. These atoms or group of atoms of other elements which are attached to carbon chain are called functional groups. Functional groups determine all the properties of that compound. So even if one functional group is attached to a carbon chain, then all the properties of that carbon chain of that carbon compound will be determined by that functional group. So let's discuss few important functional groups. First, halogens like fluorine, chlorine and bromine. To represent that halogens are attached along with the carbon chain, we will attach Cl, Br or F along with any of the carbon atoms in the carbon chain. You will be able to understand them better when we do some examples. And while writing the name, the prefix chloro, bromo and fluoro are used. So if we have to show that along with a propane, chloro is attached, that is chlorine is attached, so we will write that chloropropane. Similarly, if bromine is attached, then we will write bromopropane. Similarly, if fluorine is attached, we will write fluoropropane. The second functional group is alcohol and its formula is OH. And to represent alcohol attached with the carbon chain, we use the suffix OL, that is all. So if you have to show that alcohol is attached along with propane, then we will write propanol. Third, aldehyde. Formula C single bond H double bond O. To represent it, we use the suffix Al, that is al. Fourth, ketone. Formula C double bond O, suffix on. So the major difference between aldehyde and ketone is that in aldehyde, the chain gets terminated as H is attached to it at one end. But in ketone, H is not attached at any end and the chain remains open from both sides. So always, if ketone functional group is attached with the functional chain, is attached with the carbon chain, then ketone will be in the middle of the chain. And the last functional group is carboxylic acid. Formula C single bond OH double bond O, suffix oic acid. Now let's discuss nomenclature of carbon compounds. So nomenclature is a system in which chemical substances are given a unique chemical name. This system is given by an organization, that is IUPAC, or International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry. So let's see the rules for naming any carbon compound. So the question will be asked that we will be given a carbon compound and we will have to name it. So for naming a carbon compound, we have few steps. Step 1. Identify the number of carbon atoms in that compound. So accordingly, if one carbon atom is there, then meth prefix will be used. If 2 are there, then eth. 3, then prop. If 4, then but. We have already studied this in the second lecture. And let's discuss the step 2. So after identifying the number of carbon atoms, we will identify the number of bonds between the carbon atoms. So again, if single bond, then ane. If double bond, then ene. And if triple bond, then ine. So alkane, alkyne, alkene, we have already studied this in the second lecture. Now the third step is important and is new. So if the functional group is present, then add its prefix or suffix to the name. So basically, after we have identified the carbon atoms, after we have identified the number of bonds, the third thing we have to find is if there is any functional group present in the compound. And if we find any functional group, then what we will have to do is we will have to add its prefix or suffix to the name. So we have already discussed the prefixes and suffixes of the functional groups, and we will add them to the name. So basically the name will have three parts. The first will be number of carbon atoms, the second will be number of bonds, and the third will be the name of the functional group. So let's solve few questions based on IUPAC nomenclature. So in the first question, we are given this compound and we have to tell its name. So let's start with the step 1. The step 1 is to identify the number of carbon atoms. So here you can see that there are 3 carbon atoms. So therefore, we will the name of 3 carbon atoms is prop. So we will write prop. Now let's discuss the step 2. So in step 2 we have to see how many bonds are there between the carbon atoms. So you can see that between all carbon atoms single bonds are there. So single bond means that it is alkane. So ane. Now step 3 we have to find that if there is any functional group, and if there is functional group then we have to add its suffix or prefix. So here you can see that the functional group C double bond O is present. So you can see that the functional group ketone is present. Now we know that the suffix for ketone is ONE, on. So with this we have completed all the 3 steps for naming, and now we have to just combine these 3 names, these 3 short names, and we have to make the final name of the compound. Now one important rule while naming the compounds is that if in the suffix of the functional group, if it starts with a vowel, then the last E is deleted. So you can see that the suffix of functional group is starting with O, which is a vowel. So that's why this E of ane will be deleted. So the final name will become prop ane on. So basically prop plus ane plus on, that is propane on. So here we are having the second question. So in the second question we are given the structure and we have to find its name. So again you can see that we will follow the steps. Step 1, identify number of carbon atoms. So you can see that there are 4 carbon atoms. So but. Now second, number of bonds. So you can see that between both of these carbon atoms triple bond is present. This means that it is an alkyne. This means that we will put YN. Now step 3, identifying the functional group. So here if you closely observe that no functional group is present. Nothing is present. No O, no OH, nothing. So this means that no functional group is present. So this will be a final name, that is butyne. So here we are having another question. First pause the video and try it on your own, and then I will tell you the answer. So here we are given that this is a structure, and again we have to find its name. Step 1, number of carbon atoms, that are 2. So eth. Step 2, bonds. So the number of bonds is single bond. So that's why ane. Eth, ane. And now step 3, functional group. So here you can see that OH functional group is present. This means that this is an alcohol functional group, and for alcohol functional group the suffix is OL, all. So all. Now again the special rule, that is as O is present in the functional group suffix, that's why this E will be deleted. So the final name becomes eth and all. So ethanol is the final name of this compound. Here we have our 4th and last question. So again you can see that 3 carbon are present. So prop. Second step, only single bond is present. So in third step, functional group. So here you can see that Cl functional group is present. So this means that halogen functional group is present, that is chloro functional group is present. As I have told you before, that for halogens we add prefix instead of suffix. So in the starting of the name, the word chloro will be added. This is prefix chloro will be added to show that Cl functional group is present. So the final name becomes chloro plus prop plus ane, that is chloropropane. So I hope that with all these questions you are clear with the IUPAC nomenclature. With this, we come to the end of this lecture. In next lecture, we shall discuss few more properties of carbon compounds. So stay tuned.